Hi there. This video is all about inserting a pivot table in Excel. It's a very easy thing to do. So what I have displayed here is just what you can, what typically will be like an HR employee data. This data, again, it's bogus. It doesn't, it is just fake data. It doesn't come from anywhere. It doesn't come from any company, any organization. It is purely fake data. Okay, very fictitious data. Okay, so to insert a pivot table, don't forget pivot tables help us to take a slice or another view of our data, a more simplified view of our data that will help us to aggregate the information, help us to summarize the information, help us to break it down into basically give you a different cut, a different slice of the data. So to insert the pivot table, you can always come to the insert tab here in Excel. And it shows you here, this view shows you everything you can insert that's possible to insert into an Excel file. So you can insert tables, you can insert illustrations, add-ins, charts, tours, spark lines, filters, links, and comments. But right now, I'm concerned with inserting the pivot table with this data. So, first of all, as with most things Microsoft, with most Microsoft products, they try to recommend, give you options. They try to help you along by making recommendations. So here, you see it says here, recommended pivot tables. So if you do click on that, it's going to show you a bunch of options that you could potentially use if you're not sure what to do or how to go about what you need to do. So here is a potential look at the data, cut of the data. So you can see all this data, and I think I have 100 rows of data here. It summarized, it has condensed the whole data into 4 lines, essentially, the data. So you can see it's divided everything or aggregated everything by location. So in this data, I have 4 unique locations: Montreal, Toronto, Vancouver, Winnipeg. And it's looking at it in terms of some of the annual salaries for the employee. So for the employees, so that's one way to look at it. This is another view, another cut that Access is, Excel is recommending. So this is the locations by job code, and here you have the count of ID. It's looking at the count of ID by that is by employee type and pay type or job status, something like that. So this one's also looking at it pretty much the same thing. So you don't have to take any of these recommendations. It's purely up to you. If any of these suits what you want to do, that's fine. So you can click on them. If you're gonna select this one, you click on it and then you go okay, and then it creates the pivot table for you. But that's not what I'm concerned about with in this video. I'm concerned about creating a pivot table, your own pivot table from scratch. So you can come here easily. Again, it's the insert tab. Then you can come here and click on the icon over here. When you do that, you can see this pops up immediately. If you look at your data, you can see all of the data is selected. It's picked everything up from the first row to the last row. Everything is selected. That is, Excel is assuming that that's what you want to do. You want to select all of the data. You don't have to accept that. If you don't want all of the data to be selected, you can always come here or anywhere. And since the cursor is here, you can always come here and make your own selection. So you can see that I just selected from row 12 to row 28, and that's what you see here. But most of the time you won't have to do that. Most of the time you probably want to select everything. So I can go back easily and select everything for sure, which will give me a proper analysis of my data, of the data. So now that because I have this data in a table, that's why it's showing it to you as table 1. It's already in a table, right? So I have other options that I have here will be that I can insert the pivot table in a new worksheet, or I can insert it in an existing worksheet. So I could insert the pivot table actually in this same worksheet or another one. If I was going to do that, I will click on this existing worksheet, and then click on a spot, a cell where I want the pivot table inserted. So if I want it on this worksheet, I can put it over here. Now you can see that it's picked up the cell reference here. And when I say OK, then the pivot table is inserted here, and it shows me the field options, the field list over here on the right. Let me do this again and try the option where most of the time you will have to insert the pivot table in a different worksheet. So let me do this now. So let me do it again and show you the options, some of the options again. So if you come here again to the Insert tab, you click, and first of all, click anywhere in your data, and then you click on the Insert tab. You will see the option for Pivot Table. If I click on that, automatically all the data is selected. Like I said, I can insert it in an existing worksheet. So I can come here, click on the existing worksheet. Like I showed you before, it's possible to insert it on this same pivot, on this same page or worksheet, but I can also go to another one. I'm going to say OK here. Um, so I'm going to reference, yeah, there you go. I reference the tab over here. Maybe I pick a spot over here, a cell over here. I'm going to say OK. And then the pivot table is inserted at this spot, at this cell. Okay, so that's one way. Then I can start building my pivot table over here. So that's an option. If I go back to my data, click anywhere in the data, I go to the Insert tab again, and I go to click on the pivot table icon. I can easily come here. Let me choose this option right now, the New Worksheet option. So I can go and say, okay. So when I choose that option, it opens up a brand new worksheet entirely for me. And the pivot table is inserted over here by default, and I have the options over here. Now, don't forget this data that I'm dealing with is all about employee data. So if I, depending on what I'm trying to achieve, what I'm trying to look at, what kind of aggregation I want in my data, what kind of cut or slice of the data I want, I can say, for example, maybe I want to look at all the employees by gender, by sex. So how many women work here? How many men work here? So I can click on that. When I click on that, it brings in this particular field into the row column over here. So that's one way to do it. I could also have picked it up, held it down, and dragged it over here. You can also do that. Just click on it and drag it over here. I can also drag it over here. It's pretty much the same thing, although it's listed in a different way. So that's one way. Now, I have the gender field selected here. It's in my row, so I can see it immediately showing up here. F for females, M for males. And then easily also I can come here and say, so you know that to have a count of how many people work in this company, the best way to know the number of people that work in the company will be to do a count of the employee ID, which I have here. This is the employee ID. It's a numeric field. So I can bring it in over, if I just click on it, because it's a numeric field and Excel thinks I might want to aggregate my data based on that particular field. Excel is trying to do an aggregation for me, and the aggregation it's doing for me is a sum. It thinks, well, it's a number. Maybe it wants to add it. It wants to add the numbers together based on their gender. So, but that's not what I want to do. I want a count of the employees, not a sum of the IDs, because you cannot do a sum of the IDs, of the employee ID. Just like you cannot add a student's number to a student's number in a class. All you can do really with a student number in a class is do a count of the student number to identify each student or the number of students in the class. So to change that, I can always come here. You can always come here and go to value field settings and then choose the count option. There's a bunch of functions here that you can actually choose from: average, maximum, minimum, product. It goes on. But right now I want count. So now I can see that this has changed. I can say that I have 50 females in this company and I have 50 males in this company. So easily you can see that Excel, although I have 100 rows of data over here, Excel has press everything, analyze everything into basically the number of employees by gender. How many males? How many females? That's the beauty of using a pivot table. And it doesn't matter if this data is 1,000 rows of data. It's 10,000 rows of data. It will do exactly the same thing. It will just summarize and congeal everything, if you like, into just two lines of data for analysis. I can add more fields to it. I can add the location, for example. I can bring the location here. I can also bring the location here. You know, depending on the way you wish to display your data. I can also move this around and make it look like this so that everybody sees. I mean, you can see easily that I have Montreal listed, I have Toronto listed, I have Vancouver listed, Winnipeg listed. Here, I see the grand total for all the employees working in each location, but I can also see the breakdown of each employee in each location by gender, female first and male after that. So I can do that easily. I can bring in more data easily also if I want to. I can also say I want to see the annual salary of everybody in this company based on the things that we already have. So easily I can, let's say I move this over here. So easily I can see the sum of annual salary for everyone in Montreal first, in Toronto next, Vancouver and Winnipeg. Everything is broken down by gender, female, male, female, male in each case. There's a little button over here where I can collapse the data and look at everything in totality for each location, but I can also open it up to show each location by gender. So that this is in a nutshell is how to basically create a pivot table with your data from your data in Excel. The options are almost limitless. You can go on and you can change this to, instead of sum, you can say you want to see the average salary also. So the options are, like I said, are limitless. There are many more things you can do with the pivot table. You can insert a chart, in which case you can come here to the pivot table option, insert a chart over here. You see that option? You can also insert slicers, and it's a beautiful thing. Talk to you in the next video.